Hi, Devorah. I think you're the only one here so far, but we're early. And I don't know about you, but in order for me to get to the Zoom meeting, I had to, hi.
Hey,
In order for me to get to the Zoom meeting, I had to go through some sort of an application update or something like that. Did you have to do that?
no.
I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm a little early. I could just see.
Well, I do indexing. And so I probably had this updated from indexing.
Is that the historic
Yeah.
historian
Yeah.
file?
Well, we've done 4 phases now. So we've done different categories. I think the last one was called historic. It's been a few weeks. We finished it.
Wow, that's
No,
actually
no, that one was anyway, doesn't matter. I think that was the spouses or the other one was historic. I can't keep up.
I know that committee went for years without anything to index, and
Oh, really?
it was kind
I
of
love
exasperating.
indexing. That was fun. I mean, it doesn't really take, that much. And they had so many people doing it that really it ended really quickly, especially last time.
We've got a committee chair for the Patriot Records.
That's okay.
Hi,
Uh,
Kim. And she is loving it. I mean, she just gets all excited about all these historic records that she gets. That's the
Oh,
way she looks at it, Devorah. It's like that she gets to look at, and
yeah, that's how I felt. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And the Susan wrote the last time said that there'll be another one coming up, but I haven't gotten, any date yet. But
are they kind of on pause now then, or
I guess, and each one of those phases was a little bit of a gap,
oh,
and it varied a couple of weeks, sometimes like a little longer.
I
But
think I think Kim is also Kim Beelan, who's got the red square. I
oh
think she's
yeah.
also working on that indexing project. Hi, Mary.
Hello. Hi, Deborah.
Hey, I was gonna say, I know you. The members class. I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be right back.
That's fine. We still have a few minutes. I was telling Devorah that I went to log in a little early and I had to go through some sort of an application update. And I'm like,
I
oh,
did too.
did you? I was really glad that I got here a little early. So, what am I missing? Me. I'm trying to keep track of who's here, and I was counting everybody twice and myself not at all. So I know there's going to be people that have already told me they're not going to be able to make it today. Barbara Jers being one. I told her, how am I supposed to do this? She just creates a lot of dialogue, which is nice. Kim, is there a reason you have a red screen? She's muted too.
Her mic is muted.
Yeah, I see that. I've just never seen her screen just all red. Let's see.
Now, this is national, right? Or is it South Carolina, just South
It's
Carolina?
just state,
Na- just
South
state.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am hoping that Darlene Levy joins us. Levy. Um, I actually been able to give her a unofficial assignment. A lot of times the volunteer genealogist committees wait around and wait for something to happen. And hi, Deborah.
Hey, how are you?
Good. And we actually had one that came through our way. So it wasn't, when I say it was unofficial, it wasn't a chapter in need of sending in a team of volunteer genealogists. It was um, one lady that reached out to us because she kept getting AIRs on the 3 supplementals, and there was going to be a problem. They were all interconnected. So I think as we get to be more known, there'll be more opportunities for us to have cases, if you will, to work
Yeah,
on. And that's why I like using this time for us to get to know one another, learn some stuff, you know.
good.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock. This
Mhm.
we might be having people bounce in and out, and that's okay. I mean, I look at these calls as being just very casual, just very, let's talk about it. Um, Deborah, was it? No, I don't remember who it was last month that asked. Was it you? I was wondering.
Yes,
Asked
yes,
for the brick wall information. Did you get a chance to look at the handout?
yes. I just did a while ago. Everything looked good. Um, I have some questions about these brick wall, and it has to do specifically with the female line.
Those female lines can be
We go
challenging.
back into the 1700s. It's oftentimes, yeah, difficult to find the evidence to suggest that there's a relationship between the patriot and the daughter. So, even looking at wills and
Okay.
other supporting evidence, it's hard to get that documentation. You can go on Ancestry all you want, and you can see, all people's trees, but where's the documentation?
Well, and because your first question was just brick walls
So
in general, let's kind
I
of,
have a particular patriot in
okay. All right, let's spend a little bit of time talking about brick walls in general, and then I would love for us to use maybe some of your questions for
mind. Sure,
us to have as, you know, points
sure.
of focus, if you will. But, like I wrote in the handout, a lot of times brick walls are created because we're dealing with unique people, which is kind of nice. If these people were at the right place at the right time with the right associates, we would be able to find them. And yet who we're typically dealing with is not where they're supposed to be. Or they're not doing what we expected them to be doing. They're just a little bit more challenging because they're not your typical. We've got all kinds of, and what we are really talking about here today is methodology. You know, Hi, Lorraine. We're talking about methodology more than records, more than websites or repositories. It's more of a mindset. And so I think the first thing to consider when you're running up against that challenge where you feel like you've looked everywhere to get the answer and you're not getting it. Give me just a little grace here, you guys, because I'm also running both sides of this show as I'm letting people in and checking them off. So, and now they're flooding in. You know what? I bet you they had to go through that update, Mary, that you said
Might
you had to
be.
go to too. Yeah. It means
They
a
always happen.
It means a lot to me that you guys are here, so that's why I write it down. Who is it that's been able to join us? It means that I like that. That way I know if we've got somebody that's asking a question, whether I can refer back to, well, do you remember when? So, hi, Lorraine. I said hi to
Hi.
you. Hi, Laura.
Hi. Hey, I have a quick question because I'm on my break. I only have 15 minutes, and I know this meeting is longer than 15 minutes. Um, but just real quick, because I have to hop back into work, but how often have you all used the services of the genealogy DAR library?
I've been to the DAR library several times and used that, boots on the ground. Are you talking about asking them to do lookups, or what do you mean, Laura?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I have one person that she's a legacy, but her grandmother joined 80 years ago where they didn't have the same proof. So we've done all of the what do you call it? Generations. It's been a long day. All of the generations except for one, I'm just lost. I can't find it anywhere. And I have access to newspapers, I have access to Ancestry and the other things, and even on the the site on DAR, I'm not finding it, but I'm finding books on the family history that is in our GRC
I see.
and like microfilm and stuff like that.
If you go into the GRC, there's a library request form.
Okay.
I think there's some sort of minimal charge actually. So you tell
Yeah.
them, there's this book and I believe this person's in there and I want to get copies of it. And I think you have to do a formal piece of paper and it costs
Okay.
like $10.
Oh, okay. So that's it. Okay. I
But
was thinking
there
that
might
form.
be, are you a registrar?
No, I'm the lineage research chair.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, because you could reach out to the lineage research chair, but
That's me. That's me.
and that's the other side of it, Laura, is you could reach up to the state too. That would be
Okay.
Barbara Jers, and you know from being in these meetings that she's extremely approachable and helpful.
Yeah, yeah, everybody is. I've never, yeah, you guys are great. All right, well, I'll be quiet now so you can start your real meeting and I'll listen for as long as I can.
We are glad that you squeeze us in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Laura, I put it out on the Facebook group that we were going to have this meeting, and I got a plethora, okay, three of girls that said, is there any way that we could do this in the evenings or on Saturdays? And I said, I can't do it in the evenings, but I would be willing to do an additional meeting on a Saturday. Would
Okay.
that help you?
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm not off doing stuff. Yeah, I get it. Or I'll watch it. I'll watch the video and I know I can email you guys. So,
Okay.
but I'm making myself a little crazy over Generation 6. So,
Well, and maybe some of this, I don't know if some of this stuff in this handout will help.
yeah, I was looking at it. So, yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So again, going back to what we were saying is, it's the uniqueness of the people that you're working on or that you're researching that are often giving you your problem. And of course, we wouldn't want to change them. We love them for who they are and where they're at. So that means we have to look at things just a little different. And Laura, especially in your situation, hon, you're fixating. You're like, I gotta find this. And my first advice on that is to walk away. Work on something else for a while.
Yeah, I've been stuck on this for a couple weeks now.
And you're
But then,
gonna,
I've also had life. I have a full-time job and like we had a trip and visitors and stuff like that. So it's not like
I
I've had
understand, but
very
your
fun.
genealogy brain cells are all fixating on this one problem. So if you go work on something else in your genealogy space time,
Yeah.
give your mind a break. Because I know myself, it's like, I got to do this. I got to find this. I'm going to just tear everything up until I can get it done. That's
Mhm.
not, when I walk away and take a couple of weeks off and come back, I'm like, it's been right in front of my face. I didn't see it.
It's right there. Yes. It's like finding the ketchup in the refrigerator when the boys can't find it. It's yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I would say on any brick wall is stop looking at it so intently.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then sit down and collect everything that you have found on this person of interest. We'll call it a person of interest. And clear off your space, find a working area, whether it's a desk, a table, or if you're an electronic person, which I have a tendency to be, I'll still clear off my desk just because I don't want that visual noise to leave me as a distraction. I'll make sure that all of my windows are closed except for what I'm working on. Now, I use a software. In fact, I could show you guys what I use. I know a couple of the girls in my chapter, the first time they saw it, they're like, what is that? And I'm looking at them like, why don't you know? Let me pull it up here. Of course, everybody's got their own way of doing things, so I'm not saying that you would. This is, okay, I'm trying to figure out, there we go. Okay, do you see this screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my grandfather on my dad's side and my grandmother. And this is just legacy software is what it's called, Legacy Family Tree. There are others. Legacy is not the most popular. Roots Magic is popular. There's another one, I can't remember it because I don't really get into softwares because I like this one so much. But what this gives you, like I'm gonna bounce up here to my great grandfather. I'm double clicking on it and it opens up this smaller window, which gives me a place to record everything that I find, including like here's the census record for him in 1910. I can write down details about what I have found in the census record, if there's anything of, significance.
What was your source for finding the census, like ancestry.com or
Here on, if I click on this little doodad up here, I've got a source list.
oh, okay.
Okay, so I can, and it helps me to write the source citation the way that Legacy thinks it should be written. Everybody's got their own way. But right here, you can see I found him in the household of William J. Betterton for the 1910 census, Delaware County, Oklahoma. And I don't know why I wrote it this way, other than I actually found this census record using Heritage Quest back when that was one of the repositories that had the census records online. And it was kind of like the difference between using Ancestry versus Family Search for the census records. And because the different companies, one time, they didn't use the same film or the same digitalization of it. So sometimes it was easier to find it on one instead of the other. And I did that quite a bit on this particular family because I was having problems to where it was the handwriting was light or blurred. You'd go to another repository and it wasn't. And that's something that you are still experiencing today. Ancestry's got its set, but there are times if you're having a hard time reading it, Family Search might have a better image of that particular page. So I like using this because you could get a timeline right away. You can see where he lived, what he did. Here he was a common laborer and then became a railroad fireman. Just all of the different things that went on in his life. So even like his obituary, and of course, with a lot of software, you've got lots of options. You could actually, I put his obituary right here in the notes. But then I could also use this same, keeps going to the other screen. The same source citation, and that I found on Newspaper Archives back in 2019. But I could use that same source citation to mention like a daughter, Mrs. Raymond Dave. I typed this up so fast, I'm now seeing all kinds of mistakes in it. Raymond Davis at home and his parents. They tell you in these obituaries where these people live. And so you've got a point right there that you want to make sure you capture for all of the individuals that are listed in the obituary. So with it being software like that, it's real easy. I've got the source already written, then I just have to go tag it or pick it up when I go to save all that information for those other people. Anyway, I'm going to stop sharing it now. That's just another tool. Now, Legacy is free. You can download that application for no cost.
That's
So
good.
I decided after I played with it for a while to pay the $39 extra for bells and whistles. So it's not it doesn't break the bank like Ancestry does, But anyway, collect all the information you've got. So I would want to go back and look at all of the stuff that I had from my great grandfather if I was running into a a brick wall with him and sit there and look at it and study it. And when I say that, get the documents out. Even if you've got them electronically, go ahead. If you've got a brick wall, it's worth it. Print out the documents. Then extract the data out of the document. Take that data, like I just showed you in the software. I've extracted the data away from the document. a lot of times because we have a death certificate, we think of it as a death certificate. We don't think of it as a proof of birth because it's a death certificate. However, if it's a nice death certificate that's got a lot of information on it, it can give us that proof of birth. It can give us the date of the birth and it can give us the location of the birth. If we extract it away from the document, the data, then we can look at just the data and not have our subconscious mind tell us that we're looking at something besides data. Okay, so take the information out of the document. And then one of the things I wrote down here is build a timeline. Now, even with my software that I've got that I enjoy so much, I will often pull up an Excel worksheet and build a timeline, even though mine has got the capability of it. Now, everybody does things differently, but one of the things that I might do, let's say that I'm challenged with Oliver Oscar Betterton, is that it doesn't show me, I could put it in there, I guess, but through the timeline that it has about him, it doesn't show me all of his children's births that would say where he was at. It doesn't show me, where his parents are or siblings or all of these other interesting characters that build the life of the person. And often those can give us hints and ideas. So if you build a timeline and you put everything you know about that person, including those people that impact their life, that helps you get a better picture. One of the best exercises I think I have ever gone through was sitting down and writing a narrative out of what information I had available. I was doing a study group with some of the members from a genealogical society I was involved with in Washington. And the lady that was running that said that she had been coached into telling us that we should try this. So the next, we went home, picked a person of interest, and then we came back with our narratives. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what a fascinating experience that was to have to write it in narrative form. It just uses a different part of our thinking process. It makes us go, wow, I would like to complete this sentence, but I don't know what the answer is. So that's another way, because you're looking at the information differently. It's another help as far as with a brick wall. Write it like, I've actually written several books. You're not going to find it on the bestseller list, I promise you that, but that I've given as far as genealogy gifts. I've been hired to write a few. They're not your tomes with all of these generations of begats, but they are a story about a life. And when you have to do that, you have to know the life well enough to introduce that person to somebody that doesn't know them. So it's a fun exercise and it can take you places. Okay, so you've got your information, you've extracted the data out of it, you've created a timeline, you've written a story. And somewhere along the line, you realize that you don't know something and you want to know what it is. So you have to come up with a research question. And I know for the longest time I was reluctant to do that. I'm like, I got all kinds of questions. I just want to know this person. So if you did read through the handout, that, well, I want to know everything about Martha was my constant. I'll just pick up everything I find about this person along the way and I'll throw those breadcrumbs in and I'll make a perfect trail. And then I found out I had people that were committing crimes in different locations and then coming back home. And I'm like, that doesn't fit their MO. And so what happened is, because I was only focused, and I'm just using the crime story as an example, but because I was only focused on a person by the name of James Davis, okay, I knew he lived in Tennessee. I went out and looked at newspaper articles and I picked up all kinds of James Davises and thought he had to be the same guy, and he wasn't. because all I wanted to know was about James Davis. I didn't have one research question. And no, I don't think he ever committed a crime, but in my timeline, I had a couple of different crimes he committed. And the ones that said he was black, they just didn't know him. No, I was ignoring the facts that were right in front of me. I was painting a terrible picture of a person that didn't deserve it. Do you see what I'm saying? You
Mhm.
can do that. That's my real life story. Everybody else has got a different story, but if you come up with one question, then you can stay focused and you can start thinking, I want to know this. In order to know this, what is it? Write it down. And sometimes that can be difficult to do, but it makes you realize, especially if you break it down like I did in the handout, what do you know? What do you already know? And you might find out you know more than you think you do. I feel like I'm yammering, you guys. This is a discussion group. So anytime you got a question or a comment, and Lorraine, you're looking pretty perplexed over there.
Well, thank you. It's really sweet. What I'm thinking of is my brick wall that I've had for 30 years I, is this a fair research question? I want to know the mom and the dad of Phoebe Freeman. She was married in Dighton, Bristol, Massachusetts in 1801. And that I can't get through that.
There we go, Deborah. She's got a woman in the early, you know, the 1700s, 1800 time frame you're talking about, and they are challenging. Lorraine, I would still challenge you to, I hear what you're saying, but I would
Yeah.
challenge you to take some time down and look at, it's, did you say Phoebe?
Phebe.
Okay, Phoebe.
Mhm.
So you know that she's married to so and so because you said that,
Yeah.
So start looking at everything you know, come up with a time and put it in there. You did right now, 1801, put in a location because that matters a lot.
I know where she was married because that's in the town record.
Okay. And that gets you closer than if you didn't, you know.
Right.
Um, so you don't know her maiden name.
Freeman. Freeman. She married a John Crandall.
Okay.
There are lots of John Crandalls.
Um, but you said that her maiden name is Freeman.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
you looked for probate records for Mr. Freeman,
Yeah. For some reason, I have, okay. All right. And so elemental question, look for probate records. I mean, are they in the town record or?
um, that's a good question, Lorene. And sometimes you have to go on the I would start in the county, but if you're up there, did you say Bristol?
Yeah, Bristol County. Yeah.
Okay. And so when you're getting up in those areas, they have different governmental sets. So look, go to
Town.
the website for that community as if you
Yeah.
were living there and you had to file a probate record, where would you go? They've
Okay. Oh, that's a good idea.
they've got
Mhm.
different names. Like I grew up in the West and I had no idea that a solicitor was anything to do with the law when I came out here. You know, I saw that so and so is running for a solicitor and I'm like, when did you ever have to run to be a salesman? You know, because it's not a term that I'm familiar with. So I know I'm working on a case in Connecticut and there's the surrogates court. I know I was just looking at something in Ohio and it's the orphans court that they both handle probate records. So that's worth a little. A good place to start, Lorene, might be the Family Search Wiki. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I just heard of it actually yesterday. Somebody told me about it. Yeah, I haven't checked there today. I mean, yeah, I haven't checked there.
They have a lot of good information. I mean, we used to hear things about like the Red Book and all this and things, like I'm looking up here, I've got the handy book for genealogists, the source, and the Red Book, and that was what we used to have to go to if we wanted to answer questions like you're asking, Lorene. But now a lot of it's online. So, but that's not a bad question at all. But when you go to write your research question, think
Mhm.
about those four elements that are in the handout. Who is the person of interest? And then what do you want to know? And what can you add to it for time and for location? And make it bite size, which is important because you know you can find an answer. You
I
know,
noticed I noticed with her children some of the names that she gave middle names, which wasn't always done at that time. And so, I know sort of like some people that she might be related to, just guessing from the names
oh,
that she
Lorraine, that's a
named.
great lead. That
Mhm.
is, that used to be proof enough to put together a lineage for the DAR.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah.
I mean, you would still have to write it all down and explain it, but they actually, but that's, a lot of people complain because um, the standards are changing so much in the DAR. But we can be really proud of the lineage society that we're associated with. Nobody questions whether it's a good research. I joined the DAR because I wanted to pay somebody to look over my research and make sure it was accurate. And it's been like, what, 12 years ago now? And it was going to cost me $200 to have a professional review my work. Or I could pay, even at that time, $75 to have a national employee of the Daughters of the American Revolution verify it. And that meant a lot to me. So our standards speak for us, you know. So I myself get kind of put out, if you will, because it's like, now what do they want? Well, they want to make sure that we stay above reproach. They want to make sure that we keep the quality candle lit. So we need to, one of my sayings is if you're going to play with the genies, you got to play with by their rules, you know. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about research questions and some ideas to get you to think about what your problem is a little bit better. And Lorene, you led us to, maybe you need to go check how did they do things paperwork wise during that time frame that you're researching so that you know which court to go look for or what kind of records are even available. And Family Search Wiki has a lot of that information. If it is a burned county, they will let you know, so you don't have to guess. If it is a burned county, they will tell you other places that you might try to look. It's a very, very good resource. One other thing that I had on this handout, and there are books written about it, is the fan club. The fan club used to be cluster genealogy, but it took the next level of study into it by Elizabeth Shown Mills, and she's got quite a reputation for because she did that. She's got a good reputation anyway, but she will always be known for creating the fan club principle of genealogy research. And that is simply friends, associates, and neighbors. I spent years frustrated with the fan club because I would sit there and I would extract everybody for 5 pages before and 5 pages after on a census record. And I'm like, okay, well, these people knew one another because they lived next to one another, but were they associated? And I will tell you what I've learned over the years is that the fan club is very important, but it will typically, um, you don't have to force it. You'll start seeing the same names on documents, and those are people you need to really pay attention to. On the bottom of this fan principle that I put on the handout are my personal successes using it. And one of them is you don't know the death location or exact date of a person, depending upon how obituaries were written, and they've kind of got a cultural bubble. You get those around the late 1800s, and you don't see a family name at all, but there's columns about how wonderful the person is. There's that versus where in the 1950s they listed everybody and where they lived. And there's cultural differences even yet today as far as the obituaries that are written here in South Carolina are very different than the ones I experience in Colorado or in Washington. That being said, they're still very much worth looking at. So you want to know, when did this person die? And let's say it was in the 1950s to the 1980s, and you have no clue where they could have gone. But you have found them on the census records, so you have an idea that they had siblings. Go find those siblings' obituaries and then put them in chronological order. And if your person of interest died somewhere between the first one that died and the last one that died, all of a sudden, a lot of times that will say predeceased, or he's just no longer in the obituary. That's just an example of how a fan club can work. Another one, and there's a joke within the Trenton chapter about Gravender Marsh. Mary, have you ever heard the story of Gravender Marsh? Oh my goodness. I know Kim has. um, a group of us was working on an application. We did get an AIR. I was trying to think, did we get an error letter? And what we were trying to do is prove that Gravender Marsh was the son of Gravender Marsh. With a name like that, come on. I mean, if they lived on different continents, you would think that they would be related. I mean, that's such a unique name. And so I actually found a land record for a Henry Marsh, is how it was in the index. And I thought, well, I'm going to go take a look at it, because there had been, now this was in the early 1800s, but there had been information that there was several sons, and one of them was Henry. We had not been looking at him, but I thought it was worth looking at the land record. So in this land record, Henry Marsh sells property. And he said, I, Henry Marsh, and my brother, Gravender Marsh, are selling property that our father, Gravender Marsh, gave to us. I was like, there we go, kaboom, we got it. How could that be wrong? Well, what we found out is that we got a second letter, because the genie said, we believe that there are more than one Gravender Marsh son and father sets. Well, that just blew my mind. So I spent months digging through this. You talk about spreadsheets and worksheets and narratives and dialogues. And I mean, I was just going for it. The day I found the will written in 1810 by Gravender Marsh, where he left 10 shillings to his nephew, Gravender Marsh, son of Henry Marsh. And then he left 10 other shillings to his nephew, Gravender Marsh, son of William Marsh. And then at the very end, he listed his property from his father, Gravender Marsh, and he left the rest of his inheritance to his son, Gravender Marsh. Within this one will in 1810, there were 5 or 6 Gravender Marshes, when who would ever think that anybody carried a name like that? But what I'm saying is finding that one document. Now, again, what's important with all of that was the location. We would have to prove that this Gravender Marsh and this Gravender Marsh were the same one, and we could not. We decided to go down the tree and climb up another branch, and we got it. So we left Gravender Marsh alone. But, that's again the importance of that research question, but it's also an example of what you can find when you do the fan club. We would never have found the document that drove us crazy and thinking that we were done, but we would not have found the Gravender Marsh brother, Henry Marsh's sale of land that he got from his father if we had not looked up Henry Marsh on the index, because Gravender Marsh's name was not on the index. Henry Marsh was selling it to Joe Blow. Okay, those names were on the index. But no Gravender Marsh was anywhere on the index, even though he was in that document twice, 2 different Gravender Marshes. So that's why it's important to go and look at more than just the person of interest, to go and look at family members. Okay, who's a family member? A lot of times, and Deborah, this might help you with your female problem, if you can find information about brothers, go look at information about the brothers. If your woman, if you have any kind of lead that she's got a brother, because women didn't have a name back then, go do all the research on the male people in her family. Don't Genealogy and lineage research are different, and it bothers me. Genealogy is embracing a whole family, the changes in a community, the culture of the time. Lineage research, and I'm one of them, is a shotgun approach. All you want to do is pick up those records as fast as you can to get to the end goal. A lot of times. Now, if you are working for a supplemental application for you, I encourage you to take that time to really blossom out. Fan it all out, meaning the fan club. Go and find out what you can about each of the male relatives, Deborah, especially when you're dealing with something before women had names. That is something that might be able to help you. I think that's pretty much me yammering quite a bit. Do you guys have other questions or things that we want to think about in regards to brick walls? I hear bells.
This isn't about the brick walls, but the handout that you've referred to, you didn't send it to me, did you? I looked through, I didn't see it in attachment.
I can send it to you, Deborah.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, I shut down everything like my email while we were doing this, so I'll do it after the meeting.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to double check. I didn't think I had it.
So have you guys taken any of the GEP classes?
I took the first one.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Deborah, you've taken one? What
Well, I
about-
just retook the first one, the second time taking it. Yeah, I haven't done the other two.
Okay. What about you, Elizabeth? You're muted, honey. Oh, 5. I know Cindy and Kim and Mary. Well, Cindy's on a hot trail right now. She just finished GEP 3 and she just started, goodness, a month or so ago. So I'm really proud of her. Mary, you've got one down, right? There's more. Mary, there's more.
It's 5.
Actually, there's 8.
Oh, 8.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kim has taken 7 of them. And the reason that she's being a slacker on that last one is that there is a genealogy. Go ahead.
I always will be.
There is a genealogy course, GEP 6, that is only allowed. You can only take it if you're a registrar.
Oh.
If you are a registrar, it's free. So it's worth taking. It's definitely worth taking if you're a registrar because there's a lot that it's kind of it does the surface real quick on GEP 1, 2, and 3, but then it also gets into a little bit more on the application nuts and bolts itself. So it's a good course. I mean, I think they're all good.
The newest one is on supplementals, and it's really good.
That just came out like April.
Yep.
So I'm really pushing for South Carolina.
Sorry.
What? I'm really pushing for South Carolina members to take these GEP courses. One of the reasons is that the genies are getting stricter. The genealogical guidelines are available online, and they will tell you everything that you need to know. And they do a good job of telling you everything you need to know in order to fill out an application. But it does still leave some questions because, again, we don't deal with black and white families. They're all very personal and unique. But what has happened over the years is, okay, when I joined 12 years ago, I could use a history biography to prove my lineage. You can't do that anymore. if there is a biography of a county or a family, you have to go and find the proof that was used to build this. So the good ones, the real good ones actually do transcriptions of the documents right there in the book. And that's really nice. You can use that. But if they just source the document, then the genies are saying, well, you need to go find the document that was sourced and use it. Um, the reason that they've tightened that up is that there's so much more available online now. You know, probate records and land records didn't used to be available online. I would have to go to the Family History Library in Salt Lake City in order to look them all up. So now that those are available online, there's more and more records that are surfacing, which is amazing and it's good. But because of that, they are tightening our standards a little bit. One of the things they're going to do, it's a big deal in January. Wait a minute, Elizabeth dropped, she's come back in. In January, they're changing the application form. So, you know, the form is the same form, whether it's an application or a supplemental application, and that will be the same. But you no longer need to use special paper to submit applications. Yeah, Lorene. You know, it used to be you had to have 25% rag. That's not required anymore. They do ask that you get archival paper, and that just means it's not made, it'll say it on the, you can get it almost anywhere. It just is not paper that's made out of recycled materials. So it's not that special. It's just not recycled paper.
Oh, okay, so no recycled paper.
Right. It should have the word archival on it, but it won't be like special, like it was with the 25% rag. It's not like that. Or the watermarked. We don't have to worry about that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a new co-registrar with someone with Susan Dobbs in my chapter. We're going to be installed in a month or so, I think.
That's exciting.
Yeah, scary.
Well, then the other thing you need to know, Lorene, is that starting in January, you will have to get 2 other people to review every application. And they have to sign off on it. So like you and Susan can sign off on one another's, but then you'll have to find a third person to review that application.
Yeah, we know who we would use. Who I think she has a state. She's a state officer of some kind, I think.
But this is good. What this is, they are backlogged big time at Nashville. I'm sure we've all heard that. And what this next step is to help make sure that applications are done with less errors if more people review them before they're submitted. And you know, even Barbara Jers tells a story about how she put like the location and the date area and it got kicked back because of that. You know, she's a pro at putting together these applications. She's amazing. But we are all human, and so it's very easy to misspell a word or to have something in the wrong spot. So if we look over one another's work, the other thing is that we learn. I wish Clay could join us today. Clay Clyde is a lady in the Trenton chapter, and I've done a lot of reviews for a lot of work that she's done because she was learning the process. I learned so much, and I encourage all of us to embrace an opportunity to be a reviewer because different people look at things differently.
Are there any requirements to be a reviewer? Okay.
But isn't it kind of a fun way to learn?
Yeah.
I'm just worried that in our chapter, I've only got one other person who's going to be willing to do it.
Well, Elizabeth, reach out to the Volunteer Genealogists Committee.
I'm both the registrar and the head of it.
No, I'm
And it's a
saying
committee
here.
of 3. Oh, here.
Here.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I get emails quite often like, what kind of a committee is this when you don't have any work for me to do? Well, we're kind of waiting for people to send us work. You know, we can't very well go out and tell people you've got problems with your application, you need us. You know, So use us, Elizabeth.
I will.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I've I've been doing this since June, and we've got 3 at national waiting review. These are all new members, and I've had 6 approved since June with the 3. And when we finish here, I'll have another one ready to send off.
Wow.
But the one error I see that I'm consistently making is putting counties in. And I mean, I spent hours looking up the historical county, and then they, parenthesis it out. So is there any rule about, and I mean, I know I have the right county. And is it because the county is not on the document? So, I mean, we're talking, I'm just trying to think of one that's in South Carolina. Well, I live in Beaufort, and Beaufort district, but towns that have always been in Beaufort district or Beaufort County, and they put parentheses around them. Is it because the document itself doesn't say Beaufort County?
That's you've brought up a really good point. And one of the things that's being talked about right now is if the document doesn't say, don't put it in. That drives me crazy because I'm already so wired to finding which county it's in. But I will tell you that I can find out what it is. There is a website that they use.
I found it. One of the genies wrote it on it,
Yep.
checked with it's somebody.org.
Randy Majors or something like
Yes,
that.
I think that's it. And I looked at it, but I said, oh, I don't have time to learn this.
That's what they use.
But, for one of them, someone checked it and decided it was okay. But that's the big mistake I seem to consistently have. As I said, going back and finding the historical county takes a lot of time, and then they just parenthesis it out.
Elizabeth, I have got to tell you how amazed and like wow, blown and proud I am of you that you go back and you look at documents that have been verified. That is so cool. I don't think a lot of registrars do that.
Well, let's put it this way: they made me the registrar, and I had done one supplemental for myself. That's the only application I'd ever done. There was no other way to do it.
It's a great way to learn.
And I did. I mean, I learned a lot from that, looking at the old ones.
That's kudos to you, girl. That is great.
Well,
I'm very proud of you.
And I say they've all been 6 have been approved, but I also noticed they seem to be a little kinder to new member apps and perhaps the supplementals.
That could be. That could very well be. But no, that's a great thing. So I would, instead of you trying to research it, I think I would take the time out to learn that Randy Majors because that's what they're going to use.
Yeah, well, I say when I have some time.
You say you're spending a lot of time trying to figure out the county now, just
yeah, but I mean, you don't need to know, but I'm very busy with other stuff as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I understand. So, but let me see if I can pull it up. Did you guys all get that? If you want to find out what it is Randy Majors is a website. It's really kind of cool. It can tell you at a spot the different counties and where this county lines have changed. And let me make sure. Randy Majors. And I don't fault Elizabeth at all. It's not as intuitive as I would like it to be. Let's see. Here it is, randymajors.org. And there's map tools right here. Is this where it is? Well, here we go. Ancestry research tools. No. Yes. Historical U.S. counties auto checker. Now, I have not looked at this for a long time, Elizabeth. So and like I said, it's not that intuitive. I think these are the directions right here, though, on how to use it.
I never got even as far as you are. I just looked at it and said, when I have more time.
Well, searching on it. Okay, so it does have an extension plugin that will work with Ancestry. I have done that and I never pay attention to it, and I should. So, And I don't know it now if you have to join it or what. You didn't used to. Let's just take a look.
Elizabeth, do you happen to be in Thomas Hayward Jr.'s
I
chapter?
am.
Oh, my good friend I graduated with is Connie Tootle.
Okay. Well, Connie Tootle also may be the registrar of her Colonial Days chapter.
Yes, yes, she
So when
is.
I said that's just two of the things I do.
Yeah. We graduated together and I just I go down to Beaufort all the time. I was raised in Beaufort.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm one of those, I would say northern transplants, but I was born in the South. But, I married a guy from Ohio, so I lived a long time in Ohio. The other question I actually have that doesn't have to do with brick walls is with a quasi limited budget, because you can obviously spend a fortune. And I already had Ancestry. If I need other, paid subscription services, which are the most valuable for the money you spend?
My ancestry, of course.
Well, I've got Ancestry, but I mean, if I'm buying something else, should I do Fold 3 or Genealogy Bank? All of the different various ones. Which would be the one that you think would be the one I'd use more than after Ancestry?
I use the full-blown ancestry because newspapers comes with it.
Okay.
So that way I'm not paying extra for anything. Fold 3 comes with it and all that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I do have other subscriptions, Elizabeth. Everybody's got their own personal. I love newspapers, so I've got newspaper archives because newspaper archives, and here we go, everybody's got their own personal reasons. Newspaper archives carries the historic Aiken standards, and that was important to me. And at the time that I joined, I don't think that they're on newspapers.com, the old Aiken standards. Do you know, Camera Mary or Cindy?
What is that?
What was that? Oh, Lorraine?
What are the standards?
The we live in
Aiken.
Aiken. We live in the town of Aiken. And
Oh, oh,
the newspaper, the Aiken Standard, is what I was
oh,
talking.
okay.
And so
I've
that was
used
a huh?
I've used Chronicling America quite a bit because it's free.
Right. You know what? There's a lot of small town newspapers that are gathering together to have state sites. Universities are doing that. So like Georgia, historical newspapers is free. And when I was the registrar for the Trenton chapter, Diana Simpson was helping me with her own research, and she dug into that Georgia small town newspapers and found a lot of information on her family. So
So it's called Historical Newspapers.
it's usually the name of the state and then historical
Okay.
newspapers. Do a Google search on that. And those don't cost you anything, Elizabeth.
All right.
Again, a lot of times they are sponsored by universities, which is cool.
Okay.
I have noticed they're spotty.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll cover a year and then they won't cover 5 years, then they cover 3 years, then they it's just like you just never it's hard to have consistency with them a lot of times, but sometimes it's right time for the right
Mm-hmm.
information. And then there's always the state archives. I mean, South Carolina archives are not hard to jump in and out of them one day, which is good and bad because that means they don't have a lot of good stuff. I mean, they've either got great stuff or they have nothing for you. Georgia, on the other hand, archives are mind-blowing. They've got so much. And Ohio is the same way. I can't think of any others right now that I've worked that recently with, but I know Ohio's got a good one. Iowa. Kim, you're muted, honey.
North Carolina's complicated. Their archives.
Georgia's a little clunky too, but it might be worth your time because those are all free resources.
Mhm.
What have you found in North Carolina? This is for me personally. I have a lot of family that went through North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm shutting up. Go Kim.
I have a lot of family in North Carolina. Most of it I found on Ancestry and Family Search. But North Carolina has a wonderful resource on Revolutionary War pension. They've already transcribed it for you and everything.
Revolutionary War engine.
Pension, the
Oh,
pensions,
the pension files.
yeah, and they've
Sim-
already transcribed it, and it's great. They've done it for just about every county.
And it's through the archives.
No, it is, yeah, North Carolina Archives.
Okay.
Hi, Gina.
Hello.
Tina.
This might be about over, but I thought I would dial in anyway.
We're glad you're here. We're just kind of chit-chatting. That's what this whole group's about. But Elizabeth was asking questions about some of the best place to use your money on subscriptions, and we got talking about free places, and that's what we're talking about right now, which is really the best way to use your money is if it's free, right?
Yes.
And we talked about GEP classes, Gina, and I want to kind of get back to that. I would like to know you guys' experience in taking GEP classes, what your thoughts were, because I think all of you have taken one or two or three or four. You just took one, Devorah. What did you think?
Yeah, I really got a lot out of it. I'm anxious to get back in. I had some other things going on. I couldn't start the second one, but I am ready to roll on the second one. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I took a ton of notes.
Good.
It's already been probably gosh, what, I think a month ago though.
Whole month.
I probably need to do a refresher on that one before I start the second one.
It's a good idea to go through the genealogical guidelines
Yeah,
because GEP 1, 2, and 3 line up with the genealogical guidelines 1, 2, and 3.
yeah.
Kim, what was your favorite?
Not three. Probably supplementals.
Number 8.
Mm-hmm. Because it was kind of everything put together.
It was. Yeah. I liked 3, GEP 3.
It was long.
When did you take 3? Recently?
Last year.
Because didn't they used to have an essay on that or something, or you had to write something out? And I tried it like years ago, and then I came back to it recently, and it was just like a true false quiz. That was
Mm-hmm.
it. But it used to be harder. You had to write up an analysis or something.
When I took it, they walked you through an analysis. I didn't feel like it was. I mean, we gotta learn how to do that anyway, Lorraine. You might as well do it in a class instead of.
I know, but it's funny because I don't want to tell a story on Susan, but it was really funny because we're both going into this to be co-chairs, but both she and I a few years ago started 3 and quit, and they had this. We had to write this analysis, and she had trouble with hers, and I didn't even try it. Because I had a lot of family stuff going on at the time. But I was sort of relieved it was just a true false test. But you're right, I've got to learn how to do it.
And that, you know, would be the perfect thing to take notes on, while you're,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. I did take notes, and you can also copy the transcription of the course if you want to. But then Susan said that in the guidelines that you mentioned a few minutes ago, that all of that is reviewed for 1, 2, and 3. So I have one more lesson on the DNA one that I'm working on right now.
The EAP one was interesting as well. You get all the way through it, and then they let you know, oh, they don't need anybody to review them right now. So I kind of filed that in the back of my head, but you do learn a lot going through the EAP as to what, the guidelines and stuff. So again, that one reinforces, and that one's pretty short.
Okay. That's
And what number was that? Which course was that?
Six,
Five,
maybe
five or
I
six.
five or
said,
six.
Six is registrar, so it has to be five.
See, there
Let's see,
One is
which
four.
one's DNA, 4 or 5?
Four.
I don't
Four.
know, but is it 4?
Yeah.
Or okay, because our present registrar wanted me to take that, so I didn't know what number it was.
I think it's 4. Let me pull it up.
So did you say they said there is nobody to review EAPs at the moment?
They don't need anyone else to review at the moment.
Kim, did they say that in the EAP course or in the mid-level reviewer?
Mid-level reviewer, yeah,
I still,
which is right after that.
I shouldn't say it, but I was not a fan of the EAP idea at all. So I took the EAP class and then didn't take the mid-level reviewer. I need to get over myself and go do that.
But
Well,
on the EAP, you learn a lot about the application,
Yeah.
more about the application than any of the other courses.
Oh, well, that's handy.
Yeah.
what does EF stand for?
Electronic application is EAP.
Oh,
Yeah.
got a lot to
But
learn.
they also want the prospective member to complete it, which, yeah, probably doesn't
They're
work.
just getting ready for the younger girls, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, they call it a collaboration tool, which, and the other part about it is through the EAP, you can pay using electronic payment, where you can't do that with the hard copy application. So I'm like, that's just not enough to do it to me. But I mean, it's not like the process is any different. What you look at as you put it together is a little different, but I don't find them attractive.
Okay, so GEP4 is the DNA, 5 is EAP,
6 is registrar.
they don't have 7 on here.
It must,
Oh, 7's mid-level review, and then 8 is supplemental.
What does mid-level review mean?
After you take the EAP, you can take the mid-level review, which is certifying you to review the EAPs.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
but they don't need anyone to do that.
Right.
I stopped taking it. I mean, here
I
I am.
took it, but you know, I guess it's like the test for EAPs.
Well, there must be a process on how they do it. So what other kind of things do you guys want to talk about next meeting? We can go ahead and cut this shorter than it has been lately. Yes, Deborah, the one that always has the questions. What do you want?
Good questions, good questions. Acceptable documentation.
Okay. What are you guys thinking of throwing it out there like that? What kind of thoughts go through your mind? What is acceptable?
Documentation, since I'm really having difficulty connecting these generations. So, in the absence of, wills, Bible records, obits, what else? I did find, I know Find a Grave has its place, and you can't always depend on what's on Find a Grave.
Well, they won't accept.
But I did find a quotation that was taken. Sure, I get it. That was there was a quote from the Southern Christian Advocate. So go into the Southern Christian Advocate, if it's a dated copy, like 1870 or something.
Yeah.
Finding a copy of that names the person's parents, husband, children.
On written biographies, I don't care if it's family, county, historical, however they do it. I just tripped upon a published oral history interviews that were done in the mid 1800s. Who was doing oral history in the 1800s? I loved it. What the genies will look at is the person that is writing this history. Is it reasonable to understand that the person that they're interviewing or the person that's writing it themselves would have first or secondhand knowledge of the facts that they are stating? Now, why first or secondhand knowledge, depending upon how it's written, and if there's research that's involved in it, it would give it more credence. But I don't, when you get into first and second hand, I mean, we could get real anal about it, but I know nothing about my grandparents on firsthand knowledge, meaning I was not there when they were born, or, I was not there when either of them died at their bedside. I had to listen to what somebody else told me. Does that make sense?
So that would be secondhand, correct?
Right. Exactly. So if what is written is first, meaning that person witnessed it, or second, where someone that witnessed it told the person that recorded it, it would be probably used. Does that help, Deborah?
Yes, almost in the same way that when patriots tried to apply for pensions, there
That's a
was
really good.
nobody else to do, and there were no documents. They needed somebody to corroborate their service, somebody that was in their unit or regiment to write it down, even though it was after the fact by many years.
That's right. And that's a real good example. So, when you're asking on published his records like that, that's something to take into mind. The other, and we could talk about it, what is acceptable. The one thing that they're being real sticklers on is that a census record typically, in general, does not prove motherhood. Okay. It can prove fatherhood should the father be the head of the household. I hear you,
Susan, are
Okay.
we like, at what year are we talking about?
any year for census records.
Well,
So
when the,
is this something new they've been focusing on?
It's an old,
Because
go ahead.
I was going to say, I used it for Mother a few years ago for a bunch of supplementals and didn't have any issues. So I'm assuming this is new.
On that
I mean, I
particular,
even had 1860s approved, but I had other stuff to kind of help. It wasn't 100%, but it was enough support that they didn't ask any questions. Some other lineage organizations had asked questions on it, but
of course, it would depend upon the census that you're looking at. So if it was one of those census records that showed how long have you been married, or what was your age when you got married, where it had a marriage question, and it shows that this man is the father, then it's safe to assume that that woman, if they had been married long enough, was the mother of the child that was of that father. So, yeah. But in any census record, and Gina, I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but it is kind of a tightening up of their standards, but it doesn't change anything that's always been in the genealogical guidelines. They're just trying to be more in line with the genealogical guidelines.
now, a lot of the census that I had worked with, it would say head of household, speaking, of course, about the man. Well, generally about the man, and then and then it had the woman's name and it said wife. and then listed the children
So
or
let's say,
whoever else lived in the house, because
Right.
sometimes it was relatives living in the house.
you're
So if it
absolutely
says
right.
wife, that's not what you're referring to. That would be acceptable.
You could accept, let's say it's 1900 census, and you've got George Smith, head of household, and then you've got Susie Smith, wife.
Mhm.
What all that shows you is that, and I don't remember what questions are on each census right now, but in 1900 they were married. That's all it shows you.
So let me ask you a question. I have a couple of supplementals I have been holding on to because I just don't feel like my documentation is tight enough. So I have 2 times great grandfather. I have the marriage record for his parents. I know when his mother died, he was about 2, but I don't have proof of it. In 1850, there is absolutely no census for that family. I have looked and I have gone, when you talk about your fan thing, I have looked at every sibling. I cannot find the family anywhere or the children. By 1860, he has remarried. I have an 1860 census that shows a 12-year-old boy with the father and the stepmother. I can prove the marriage of his biological mother, and I have the marriage certificate for the stepmother. So if I send in both marriages and the 1860 census, are they going to, and the line goes through the father, is that going to be enough to say that he is the father?
I think if you've got 1860, maybe not. No,
And all 1860, it doesn't give a relationship, it just gives the name and the gender. And so I say 1860 census,
I don't
2
think you need,
marriages.
I don't think you need I think that the marriage certificate of his mother would be important. I
Yeah,
don't think you need the marriage certificate of the stepmother. I would keep it in case they ask for it.
okay. I also have,
And it's really, Elizabeth, as you know, you're light, meaning,
oh, I know I'm
yeah,
light. That's why it's been sitting for like 5 years.
I would look for a land record.
And what I'm going to say is all the land was inherited from the first wife's father. And there are tons of records about her inheriting or her husband inheriting land from her father.
Okay.
When the father dies, it just is the Kilby land was sold to John Doe.
Okay.
It doesn't list, you know what I'm saying, that the son and his sister had inherited it or the son had inherited it. It just says the Kilby land was sold to. So it doesn't give any relationships in that sale. Again, it proves where the land originally came from, but that doesn't prove the father to the son. The only other document that I have is during the Civil War. My understanding is there was a tax. I found it. It's listed under IRS in Ancestry, where he's paying a tax on land as a guardian. But again, guardian could be his uncle with the same last name.
Yeah.
And
There a will, if there was property that was sold, is there a will
there is no
or an
property.
estate?
We are in Tennessee with people who are illiterate at that point in time. And there are no obituaries because there are no newspapers closer than Knoxville. And as I said, the whole slug of them are illiterate, so they're not doing obituaries generally. And I can't find church records.
Elizabeth, what time frame are you talking about?
Okay, this child would have born about 1848,
So,
maybe 1847.
so them serving in the Civil War would be acceptably. Do you know if they served in the
He
Civil War?
served,
You
but
might want to
again,
consider getting their pen, see if there's a pension. And we still have to purchase those from the National Archives, but man almighty, are they worth it?
he did have a pension. I know that because I've got the widow's pension for his wife. And unfortunately, his wife did the death certificate. And according to my grandmother, who was her daughter-in-law, or my great-grandmother, she had dementia and she just put unknown, unknown, unknown for everything.
That's why getting getting his pension, not the spouse's pension, but his pension for the Civil
Okay.
War. I buy every one of them I can find for my family. Last time I did it, they were about $85, but they are worth it. They are so full of family history.
So it will list his parents because, you know, the stuff that's on Ancestry, and I have gone and done the microfilm in Knoxville at the West Tennessee whatever library they have
Right.
there. And the 10 or 15 pages of microfilm is not the whole pension record.
I don't know. I didn't see your record that you were looking at.
Well, I'm just saying it has all his desertion charges and then when he was reinstated.
All I
So,
know is that what I typically see is the person that's applying for a pension writing down, um, when they got married, when they were born. What I love about it is on one of my great grandfathers, his pension record, he's like, there, you know, I don't know when I was born. I was born in either Alabama or Tennessee, and I think it was in April, and you know, and I don't, there is no family Bible record that I am aware of. And then the next time he wrote to him, he goes, "What do you want me to tell you? I already told you, I don't know." And then the third time, he's like, "Fine, I was born the 10th of April." You can tell he's just making it up. But that worked for
now I don't see him getting a pension. I just see a widow's pension.
Okay, I would still recommend getting that.
Okay.
Um, the one thing that I know on Leland Betterton is who I'm talking about, who didn't know when he was born. I thought it was interesting because his mother wrote a deposition for him. Well, you'd think that she would know when he was born. But she didn't write anything about his birth, just how long she had known him, and that was her son. And so you just never know. It's a grab bag of
Okay.
things because it's real life, you know. But if there's a chance that you could get your hands on Civil War pension or spouse's pension, I keep hoping that Fold 3 will put those out there. I would love to see that. War of 1812, same way. I've had some wonderful brick walls come down because I was able to find that I thought that my guy was a little too old to be in the Civil War. And then when I found out that he was in the
Mexican American War.
yes, was that it? I think so. And there was a pension record for it that's what really
Okay.
helped me out.
Okay, I will try that because I have really thought I'd gone pretty much everywhere I could find, but that might be if it has more. I thought what Fold 3 had was everything.
No.
Okay.
So Deborah, you want to talk about acceptable documentation?
Yes. I mean, aside from census records, obits, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
stuff.
Well, and like we were just talking about as far as census records, it's genealogy, lineage research is not cut and dry. It's just okay. So the last Wednesday in December is Christmas Day. I would love to play, but I bet you guys won't show up, will you? Nope. So
I'm looking at January.
you guys want to bump it 1 week or a whole month? I don't want to wait. I like doing this. Holidays just really mess up a calendar though, don't they?
It does, particularly if people are traveling.
Yes.
So I'm open.
I feel like well, Kim, help me remember, we decided that we were going to try to get on a regular schedule, and for some reason we ended up here on the 20th because of Thanksgiving. So I guess we could do the 18th. Is that what we were kind of thinking in doing that?
We were gonna do the third Wednesday of the month.
Okay. my church has got big things going on both of those days. That's why I was kind of hesitant, but what about the 17th this time around? Would that work for you guys so that I don't have to run out of here just so I can go to a function at the church?
Did you, 17th of December?
At 2 o'clock?
Well, did you want to ask what's her name? Asked on South Carolina page about an evening meeting?
What was that? Oh, no, I kind of talked about that right at the beginning.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
missed that.
I talked with Laura about that a little bit. I am going to start doing a weekend meeting. If you
Okay.
guys are interested, I guess I could just send it out to everybody on the distribution list. Um, there are some ladies that asked that you know, what they wanted me to do is see if we could move this meeting to either an evening or a weekend, and I'm willing to do both. So, and Renee just said she would prefer either evening or weekend. I I can't do an evening. I just have too many
He
things
goes to
going on.
bed at 7.
I go to bed at 7. And I'm just, by the time I get done with dinner, I'm just going downhill fast. So I just don't want to commit to anything. But I would do a Saturday. Renee, would a Saturday work for you? She's texting or chatting with me. Okay. I will look at my calendar and come up with something. We'll continue to do this one too. I don't mind doing both. I kind of look forward to it because I like this and it helps me get to know more of the volunteer genealogists in the state. And I learn a lot from the things that you guys talk about. So we will have this meeting though on December 17th, which is a Tuesday in December at 2 o'clock.
Got it.
All right. And I'm going to see about looking at this recording and putting it on. I'm building a YouTube channel of these if I can get them done right. That way we can refer back to them if we want to. And I think we cover a lot of good stuff and we will continue to cover a lot of good stuff. And right now it's got one video because last month's video was so bad. I wish somebody would have said something to me. I didn't know that everything was bad. Well, I didn't have internet, and so I was hotspotting from my cell phone, and so it really messed up the bandwidth and made everything jerky. So it's kind of
Is Deborah Sutherland a part of this group? She's the registrar for my chapter.
what chapter are you with, Deborah?
Fort Sullivan.
I'm looking. I don't think so. You could tell her about it
Okay.
by all means.
All righty.
Let me see. Got another list here.
So they should email you for further information
Or I put it
to
out
get
on
on your list and
I put it out on Facebook.
okay.
If
Now
it,
I don't know if I'm part of your Facebook. No, I am part of the SCDAR. Is that the one you're talking about?
yes,
Oh, okay.
good question though.
Okay.
There's a lot of Facebook out there.
Yeah.
But and then like I said, the notifications go out there, and then also when I get the video, I've got to process it and stuff. And
Okay.
it won't be until next week. I've got another meeting I'm holding Friday. So
Yeah, there's a couple of ladies that are starting with the GEP courses from my chapter. So
good.
I'll let them know about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the more excitement we can get about lineage research and as volunteer genealogists, that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
But the Lineage Research Committee works primarily on applications, those special cases that are really a little bit more complicated for brand new members. Hi, John. Versus the Volunteer Genealogists Committee does more of this. Encourages one another, educates one another, supports the GEP courses to a point that we're ready to be boots on the ground if there is a chapter that's in need. For instance, a lot of things can happen, but let's just say that there's a chapter that's starting to grow a little bit, and so they've got a lot of interest, and they've got 16 applications on the desk, and the registrar dies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I hate to say
Overwhelmed.
that, but
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple of chapters out there that are needing help. They're just trying to figure out the best way to get it. I've got one that is actually putting in a formal request for some volunteer genealogists. Now, what that means is that one or two of us from the committee will be selected to work with this chapter and help them through a ton of applications. During that time, if you are on that assignment, you will be given image access to where you could go and look at all of the old records that have built the applications that create the GRS, which have got a lot of really good information, wonderful information on them. So that's a 6-month assignment. So think about it. I don't know when we're going to get it formalized because the request is being made, but it has to go through the proper channels because the chapter development and revitalization committee needs to be aware that there's a crisis situation before we could go in and help out. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So,
Susan, just to clarify, next month is the 17th
yes, ma'am, the 17th
Okay. at 2.
at 2. Thank you for that clarification. All
You're
right.
welcome.